Hi, my name is Ian McClarty. I'm president of phoenixNAP. And today we're going to discuss how to create cloud optimization strategies for your clients' workloads. With me also is Brian Kelly, CEO of CloudGenera, and Peter Marr, Director of Channel Sales for phoenixNAP. Next slide, please. So today, we're going to do a quick recap on cloud-centric business models. We're going to look at the general market. Cloud is definitely a expectation that companies on the IT side have today. There are a lot of options right now for how you deploy. There's also an expansion of the service portfolio, and cloud-centric business models really are a way to do turnkey solutions as well. According to Gartner, 85% of organizations are going to embrace a cloud-first strategy, which is true. We're seeing quite a bit of that, and 95% of the workloads are being deployed on cloud-native platforms, and this is actually interesting. By 2025 up from 30% in 2021. We're definitely seeing an increase in more cloud-native requests, specifically with Kubernetes-related technologies. Today, we do believe it's a journey. Clients are looking at ways to get there, and it's becoming a major focus as really software development has shifted from very traditional monolithic development to very containerized microservices deployments, and really taking advantage of kind of a cloud-first strategy with data anywhere, and also with the ability to be able to rapidly scale out and not be vendor locked. And channel partners really are a way to get there. A lot of trusted IT is coming from the channel, and will continue to be so. These are long-standing relationships, and being a good cloud broker to be able to have a good, thoughtful conversation with the IT enterprise, but also with a shifting buyer persona that I think the channel needs to be very aware of, which is the VP of engineer, and sometimes even the product owners are coming in and also making the requests on how to get the deployments out to the market. Next slide, please. So we're going to start with a poll. So we're going to start with the poll question. First, before we get too far, the poll question is: are your clients currently evaluating infrastructure decisions and/or costs? If so, on what timeline? Option A is immediately, B is within 6 months, C is within 12 months, and D more than 12 months, and E not currently. The organizations are not currently looking at doing that. We're going to give the audience a couple minutes for participation, and then what we'll do afterwards is share the results, so in a live environment, so that we can actually see from a panel perspective if some of the stats from Gartner and TechTarget add up to where the decision making is taking place. And with that, we'll finish the poll. Have the response immediately, so kind of interesting. Again, the market is very, especially with supply chain constraints, is very much embracing more cloud-centric strategies at this point. And one of the hesitations also has been historically, I can do this on-prem a lot easier, but the reality is that when suppliers right now are coming back with 9 to 12 month lead times, and I can get something in cloud within a matter of minutes to hours, it's a very different thought process that's happening right now, and it's really helping drive some of the cloud enablement. Next slide, please. So what are some of the opportunities here, and why? We kind of briefly mentioned cloud native focus, which is important. And really the reason for the cloud native focus is software development is going to a very big shift in the market, which is DevOps. We hear that term quite a bit, but what it really means in essence is a different way to develop software. It's taking it from a monolithic application that historically has run on-prem to a very cloud-first enabled entry, and also to build it in such a way where there isn't anymore a silo in the process. You're taking different types of groups that have that historically were separated and joining together into a DevOps cluster. Think of it more like a tiger team, where you have a very at the center you have development, but you also have other pieces like networking, security, release engineers, QA. They all work together in a very tight knit cluster community to get code out fast. And so it's a shift in how you develop code, and also in where you put the code. And so this is one of the biggest drivers right now. And line of business is also helping drive this, because what they're seeing is they're getting code out faster, and there's less silo conversations happening. It's less of a serial process happening, and more like all together, everybody's getting in a room and figuring out how you get the code out, how do you get supported, and how do you get it live. There are also like very industry-specific solutions that are going out to the market to really get cloud to another level. As an example, think of like healthcare field. There's a lot of release. There's a lot of patient information. There's ways to exchange data in a very cloud-centric provider. For example, right now, that one of the major needs is with COVID was how do I take all this COVID information and how do I exchange it across states, but also across even nations. And so the concept of security enclaves has increased. It's basically a very secure way to exchange metadata. But in order to be able to do that, you do have to be someone in a cloud-centric environment. So historically, R&D departments or science departments that were not geared toward, that were very secluded and cornered off, are now trying to figure out ways to get more cloud enablement going. As the service models are also very important. We see a shift in that. I mean, that one of the easiest ways in channel that we saw that was UCaaS. The conversion, and again, COVID helped drive a lot of this change, but we saw this happening quite a bit even before that. But really, UCaaS was driven in such a way where I need to have my remote workforce supported. VDI services as well. Anything that's as a service model has really increased. And then we have new concepts evolving, right? AI, ML, we talk about a lot, but really, especially when you come to industry-specific solutions, these kind of go together, 2 and 4, because we do see the impact of AI and ML on ways to basically get more industry knowledge, or to create workflows that are more automated, to use it in such a way that it helps the business line of business or the frontline support people. So we're seeing more and more AI and ML workloads to start being embraced by industries, and there are very specific industry solutions that are being solved, or functions within the industry that are being solved. For example, you think of like support, or security. Security is a big one that has received a lot of AI and ML because of different market needs. For example, the need. There's a short supply of people, and you need better ways now with more attack vectors. So AI and ML has really been a big driver for that. Companies that are really developing solutions around that, but it's also opportunity here for the IT solutions providers. And then we talk a little about the metaverse. It's a little bit more out there, a little bit more ephemeral right now, but the reality is that it is a lot of work is being done on even the commercial side, not just on the consumer side, but on the commercial. I was recently at a convention, and one of the big focus points was being able to digitize people and to be able to have them in an augmented reality environment as they do like meetings and business like kickoffs without them having to physically be there, but at least provide like a physical presence of sorts. And so in a virtual environment. So really the augmented reality side we're seeing quite a bit. And again, we talk a little about virtual worlds and 3D modeling. Definitely going to be very consumer focused for a long time, but we are seeing this actual business use cases developing right now for it. Next slide, please. So what does this mean from a sizing opportunity here, and from like how is the revenue being spent? So a couple different things I want to point out. Something that's interesting, if you look at like the overall purchasing on the blue bars, right? Kind of like a steady eddy, very not exponential type increase. A couple percentage points going up. So the forecasting is very interesting because you look at the cloud deployment side of the house, and it'll be basically bigger by 2025. But it's interesting to see that the traditional budget is not really increasing. It's just not incrementally, exponentially increasing. It's more of a small incremental impact, not exponential impact. Unlike cloud deployments are really going through an exponential curve, and they will be bypassed by 2025 services that are being deployed. Next slide, please. And then how do we look at the cloud initiatives that we kind of talked about, right, across all organizations for this year? So let's start with the big ones. So optimizing existing use of cloud, and this is where CloudGenera really comes in and shines. Cost savings is a big focus for companies that are already in the cloud. The bills are very hard to discern, very difficult to optimize because you need to really right-size your workload, and there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done to do that. Companies like CloudGenera and CloudGenera specifically really shine and lead in the way to do this and give you that telemetry and transparency you need, and also comparison between providers. The migration of the workload to the cloud is very difficult, and not necessarily for a couple different reasons. Not so much because of it involves a lot of human capital, but a lot of times the code itself is not ready. And so you have to have ways to make a like on-prem environment first to get over to the cloud. Once you get into like a software development methodology where you're rewriting like core code and making it more cloud first or cloud enabled right from the get-go, that makes it way easier. But the other impact that a lot of people don't talk about is really data, the actual databases, the actual systems itself, and then there's a lot of policy and procedure on the security side. So there's a lot of workload that has to happen there, and so cloud migration really is complex and is multifaceted, and you have to involve a lot of departments. But the data is probably one of the biggest, I would say, hurdles you got to overcome to getting in there ingested. The second would be getting all the policy security, your corporate governance on top of it. That would be number two, and they go hand in hand. But one up and coming, right? We talk about expanding use of containers, and really it's more than containers. It's really Kubernetes related technologies that are kind of getting traction. As we kind of see this graph, it will be interesting next year to give some comparisons here of what we've kind of noticed, right? See if that 33% has really that 35% has really increased, or if it's been an exponential move as more and more companies are going through this journey of creating microservices. Next slide, please. So I kind of hit upon a couple of the top challenges of cloud migration. First, how to do it in a way that you're not vendor locked. And this is again one of the reasons why Kubernetes has a big promise. It's basically supported by all the hyperscalers. A lot of up and coming cloud providers like ourselves are also supporting it natively. And really, the promise of Kubernetes is so that you're not vendor locked. I mean, that's one key thing. In order to take advantage of a public cloud or a hyperscaler, you really need to. It comes with a double-edged sword. You cannot really take full advantage of it if you're not using all the components. Once you start using all the components, you become very vendor locked. So it's very difficult for a lot of companies to start addressing that. And so this is one of the reasons why Kubernetes technology has really increased on the microservices side, because it runs on all hyperscalers. It runs on-prem. It's kind of like your dedicated framework. It runs on bare metal. It runs on all this infrastructure. And then companies like CloudGenera, with companies that are already there and are going through this, cost optimization is a big one. Really, companies are trying to cost optimize, try to figure out, am I running too many resources? And typically the answer is yes. Is my bill too difficult to discern? Typically the answer is yes. But as cloud sprawl happens, it becomes a bigger issue. And then we also talked about the staffing side of the house, insufficient cloud IaaS skills, right? In order to be able to do it right, you really have to have a mentality of like how you map out this on-prem solution or this very physical solution, typically that was done with a legacy app into a cloud native ecosystem, and it is very different. The level of security, the level of expertise that go around it, the level of even mapping the hardware. What does the hardware look like from a very physical infrastructure to sometimes very virtualized infrastructure? What does that mean? Am I getting enough horsepower, or am I overshooting and providing too much horsepower? And then, really expand service availability, right? That's I'm going to go back to that one first because it's really important. The level of investment, especially on the network and other services that are needed. The amount, how do you remotely access the system securely? How do you get there? It's really it makes it more difficult. It isn't like you have your near proximity to the equipment. A lot of times the equipment is very ephemeral, so you really have to wrap your head around how you're doing these deployments. And so there are multiple barriers here. And then I think, again, CloudGenera is going to go through more details on how they help with some to alleviate some of these concerns, but definitely worth noting these concerns from the get-go. Next. So there are other challenges in cost optimization costs. All right. So for example, generally budget is nearly 25% for the cloud needs, and I would say it's actually have grown significantly. And I would even question the 30% number, but this is third-party information. As I look at the market, there's a lot of ways to spend, right, on the actual workload placement. And I would say until recently, companies, CloudGenera specifically, it helps with a lot of that waste, but also measuring that waste, is very, very difficult for a lot of companies. At 30% is at best a guess. So in 90% of the world, enterprises rely on cloud technologies. A third of IT budgets is dedicated to cloud spending, which again, we do believe that that's an increasing number. And as a matter of fact, from the way we look at that exponential curve we saw before, it is going to continue to increase. So there are a lot of challenges on how to optimize the cloud itself. But the first thing you got to do is you got to measure it, and you got to compare it with other clouds. And this is really where CloudGenera shines. Next. So what are some of the best practices of cloud cost optimization? Cloud readiness estimation for sure. Cloud migration strategy. This is probably again one of the more important pieces that we talk about. You have to really make sure that either if it's not going to be your team, that you're getting the proper resources externally to help you with how you're going to do this. Assessing your current infrastructure. A lot of companies struggle with even knowing what they actually have resource-wise, or there's a lot of servers that may be sitting there. And one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to map out every single system that you have and move it over. You really want to figure out first off what you have, and then once you have done that, what you should move over. There might be systems that you're about to retire in 6 months. You probably don't want to do that, or there might be a legacy app that is really going to be redone another way. It's a lot of wasted work moving apps that are going to be in short horizon deprecation versus apps that are really going to stay there and going to be the lifeline of your company for the next 5 years. So that's one thing that is really important is really assessing your infrastructure, but also your application stack. Application health risk scan. What is that application doing? And then benchmarking cloud prioritization, right? Are you getting the same kind of horsepower that you're expecting? Typically, the answer is yes, but it does come at a cost. And when one thing that is healthy to keep in mind when you go through a cloud migration strategy or cost optimization strategy, there are other ways. There's typically newer product lines that may help you consolidate. You may be running very old instance types, for example. Those old instance types come at a cost. The new instance types may be able to take two old instance types and convert it to one, but the difference in cost might only be 30%. So there are really good ways to really optimize your that can help you drive some cost optimization there. Controlling migration costs, again, you have to have a good landscape of what you're doing, and also where you're from that landscape, figure out what really needs to move over, and that's one way to control some of those migration costs. If you're moving a bunch of legacy apps that will be retired in the next 6 months, that's not a good idea. If you're moving apps that are going to be and data that's going to be there for the next 5 years, and you are able to really control that cost basis and not to do a hardware refresh cycle, that's a much better play. So really tiering down information is really important. And again, we talk about short-term versus long-term savings. This all goes together. It's really what at the end of the day, what is that application doing, and what is that workload doing for your line of business? And there's nothing wrong with also getting a 2-for-1. Hey, I'm going to optimize my cost, but at the same time, I'm also going to get better performance. And then this is all going to help you to reduce and eliminate your wasted cloud spend. Again, this all correlates and with each other. You can't just do one piece without doing the other pieces. You really have to have like a big picture analysis of everything going on. And with that, We'll go to the next slide, and I'm gonna turn it over to Brian. Oh, apologies. Quick poll question, actually. Let's do this first. So what are the most important factors in selecting an infrastructure and venue? And you can have multiple here. This select all that apply. It can be cost, high availability, time to deploy, security compliance. So the answer can be one or all of the above, or two or three. And we'll give the audience a couple seconds here to put information, and then we'll share the results afterwards. Okay, with that, we'll finish the poll. So as you can see, pretty decent spread here. High availability definitely was a concern. Time to deploy, security, compliance, and costs. Interesting. Well, thank you to the audience. And with that, we will now turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Ian. First, let's speak to how CloudGenera helps with some of these challenges that Ian walked us through. To make good workload placement decisions, you really need to look holistically at the options available to accelerate a migration to the cloud or to optimize the spend of an application that's already been moved to the cloud. With CloudGenera, you can automate this analysis to resize, rehost, refactor, actions that operations can take without changing the application itself. CloudGenera also can help with these higher level of effort and frequently higher value activities like replatforming or building the business case to replace or rewrite applications. Frequently, these higher level of effort treatments are justified by poor user experience, technical debt, and potentially operational risk and total cost of ownership associated with supporting apps. And so as the market evolves beyond this mindset of lift and shift to a mindset of the best value for the spend, being able to perform this type of analysis as a channel partner is essential to add value to your end clients. And CloudGenera, in our partnership with phoenixNAP, provides a mechanism where you can automate this analysis. Next. We'll discuss a little bit about the differentiation and the value prop associated with CloudGenera and phoenixNAP's partnership. First and foremost, there are ways to perform this type of migration and modernization analysis for your clients today. Frequently, you will be asked to leverage vendor tools that are biased to a particular cloud service provider's outcome. Often, you'll find yourself taking the output of these tools and having to build models in your spreadsheet to compare the differences between a hyperscaler like an Amazon and the services available from phoenixNAP. Also, due to the nature of these tools and the effort required to take those tools and then map them to something that's actionable for your customer, the output's usually yesterday's news. It's a reactive view that may not be informed as well as it could be with regards to what's available in the market. Conversely, what CloudGenera offers is an agnostic way to perform this analysis. No bias towards venue, vendor, or outcome. Second, thanks to CloudGenera's data service, you can provide your clients real-time visibility into the needs of their applications and assist them with the governance around how those applications map to service providers and technologies that they authorize for use. Lastly, because of this ability to work in real time, CloudGenera has the foundation to predict your next action. And that takes you from yesterday's news into proactive, actionable strategies to migrate or modernize. And through our automation, our AI algorithms, this presents shorter time to value for you and your customer, both in that initial assessment of what is required to either optimize the spend or to migrate the workload, as well as in the ongoing analysis to optimize the spend in a customer's environment, regardless of whether that customer is 100% in cloud, 50% in cloud, or just beginning that journey. And so in one solution, you have something that can differentiate you as a partner, driving you to revenue opportunities quicker, and also providing an ongoing value to your customer to help them optimize their spend. Next. We'll take a look at the CloudGenera platform. And after this slide, we'll quickly transition to a live demonstration, a use case where you can see how to apply this platform. But first, the core aspect of the platform are the algorithms that power our analytics. AI algorithms that look at what's available in the market. And this look into the market is informed by CloudGenera's data service. We possess a global marketplace, visibility into what can be offered, what do people charge for it, and what service level and security is associated with those services that are available. So in one solution, you can provide to your clients visibility across Amazon, Azure, Google, Alibaba, IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud. But you also can inform your customers around these alternatives to deliver cloud through a provider such as phoenixNAP. So in one place, you can provide this unbiased agnostic view that informs your client on their right mix of cloud services. The algorithms also leverage CloudGenera's application discovery functionality, the ability to capture and define the needs of your client's applications. So the demographics of their users, the service level, and the expectations they have around quality of service that they'll get when placing an application in a particular venue. Ability to document compliance and security concerns. Think privacy, regulatory concerns that govern where applications can be placed and how they should be operated. The application design. So if it's an existing application or a new application being modeled for the first time, the ability to document the assets that are required to be deployed in the cloud. So think the infrastructure requirements, think the platform preference that you may want to run on, think the operating system, the middleware, even application software. So in one place, you can capture and define these requirements around the tech, as well as these qualitative measures like security and service level. Lastly, CloudGenera provides a way to calculate total cost of ownership for applications. And this is really challenging for most end users. They do not understand how to fractionalize an application's use of the resources in the data center. That's one of the things CloudGenera automates as a part of its discovery. And then ultimately, the demand of the apps and the governed use of suppliers in the market are analyzed within this engine to generate actionable scorecards, side-by-side comparisons of either different license models inside a provider. So like if you wanted to determine, is a month-to-month or an on-demand or a reserve pricing the best thing for your app in a phoenixNAP data center, you can do that sort of analysis. You can also compare phoenixNAP to different providers and see whether or not the needs of an application are better suited for the bare metal cloud, the virtual private data center, or the secure cloud that phoenixNAP offers versus other alternatives your customer may be considering. Next. Now what we're going to do is transition into a quick demonstration of the CloudGenera platform and show you how you could leverage this platform to advise and guide your customers either in upfront planning or ongoing optimization of their cloud spend. And in our brief demonstration, what we're going to take a look at today is a comparison of bare metal workloads. One of the things Ian mentioned earlier was how many customers are moving to cloud native architectures that are leveraging containers and Kubernetes. Well, when they do that, they need to lay down foundational infrastructure to support those pods of containers across their portfolio. And as Ian mentioned, there are many benefits from modeling and deploying applications in this sort of model. And what we're going to walk through here is a 3-tier infrastructure. There's a set of nodes to host our Kubernetes environment that reflect the application services that live in our environment. Through our analysis, we have a different configuration of nodes that support those data services in our environment. And lastly, we have web services, and again, different container architecture, different hardware infrastructure requirements to support the capacity and the needs of those particular service types. So within CloudGenera, you can model these different requirements around compute, network, storage. You can group them logically, both for workload placement and for modernization analysis. The model does give you, as mentioned previously, the ability to input requirements around the demographics. So think location, think utilization, think user base and their concurrency. It allows you to document in a vendor neutral way the service level you expect to achieve. And these selections around reliability, scalability, monitoring and management, and the response time, those items will change the price because they'll change the recommended services to achieve what's best for an application's deployment. Also mentioned previously on the prior slide is the repository of security concerns that CloudGenera provides out of the box. Here you can define those concerns that would govern deployment of an application and the service expected to achieve compliance with your security concerns. Lastly, CloudGenera does provide a mechanism to calculate total cost of ownership from an application environment. If a customer doesn't know their financials, CloudGenera has a benchmark that can help them estimate the unit cost associated with their compute, their network, their storage, the software that runs on that environment, any labor associated or maintenance associated with supporting that particular environment. That's valuable because it provides a baseline for comparison. The primary output of this platform, as mentioned previously, is scorecarding. And these scorecards allow us to visualize best fit for our application. And in this use case, we're comparing 3 providers. We're comparing the West US data center for phoenixNAP in an on-demand price model. We're comparing Amazon data center in the West, again, in a shared on-demand model. And then we're looking at Google as a provider, again, in the West in an on-demand model. Now, Amazon as a provider offers bare metal infrastructure. Google, on the other hand, doesn't currently provide this. They provide a VM-based infrastructure. And then, of course, phoenixNAP provides bare metal, virtual, as well as a cloud offering tailored for security. And what this scorecard's telling us is that each of these providers were good at meeting our service level, security, and technology fit for the Kubernetes environment that we intend to deploy. We can see there's a little bit larger gap from our friends here at Google than in the other providers, and that's the notation that they actually don't offer bare metal. They do offer large shapes of virtual machines, but if your application and the workloads affinity is to bare metal architecture, that's the reason why Google has a lesser score. The other aspect of this model is total cost of ownership analysis. This is core to the presentation of business case that helps your client visualize a benefit to take an action. CloudGenera, using our benchmark or using customer data if they have it available around their costs, has calculated an annual total cost of ownership to operate, and so that's the same across all 3 providers. We've also estimated a transition cost. And so for you as a channel partner, this is how you can leverage this platform to justify the investment customer needs to make in doing a migration or a modernization activity. And so in addition to the opportunity to resell some of that cloud capacity, you also have the ability to sell the services to get the customer from their current state to this future state, whether it's optimizing and modernizing in the cloud or migrating that workload to the cloud. Last aspect of this total cost of ownership analysis is the calculation of a payback period. And you can see here in this model, phoenixNAP is offering a 3-month payback period once we complete our investment. It is providing the lowest total cost of ownership to achieve the service level that we're looking for and the security that we're looking for and the technology that we need for the deployment that we're looking to place. Observe the delta in the total cost of ownership for Amazon, as well as that total cost of ownership for Google and their VM-based infrastructure. This is not to say that Amazon and Google don't provide highly competitive offerings for certain requirements in the market, but it's showcasing the drastic variability in some of those public cloud models versus the cloud that can be procured through phoenixNAP. And so again, this is not a promise that phoenixNAP will win in every use case, but this is an example of where phoenixNAP offers tremendous value for customers in the market. This scorecarding isn't just an executive summary, it does provide a great deal of detail to make its recommendations actionable. The ability to look at other costs, either costs that are helping us to transition to the new model or aspects of the infrastructure that weren't part of the application but do need to be considered as a part of total cost of ownership. It's giving us a gap analysis, so you'll be able to show your customer those things that they may need to bring, like certain software. It'll also show you certain gaps, either in service level or technology, back to Google not offering a physical x86 platform for our bare metal requirement. Next, the product gives you great detail in terms of what are the best services available from each provider. So here we're comparing a D1 small in the bare metal cloud of phoenixNAP to a C5N metal instance in Amazon versus the closest size shape in a VM in Google. And so side by side, you can see the annual costs associated with these. Why is it that phoenixNAP has such a big cost advantage in this example that we're looking at? It's because in Amazon, in this scenario, the smallest shape they have that can give us bare metal is much larger than the requirements of our application. Our application required 16 CPU and 64 gigs, but the smallest shape I could get in Amazon was going to be way over provisioned. This is a clear differentiator for phoenixNAP in the market that can be demonstrated through the CloudGenera platform. For those workloads that have affinity to bare metal, there is a clear price for performance advantage for the smaller shapes. And we're not talking very small here, right? We're still talking a sizable machine size, but a very, very big delta. Now, that's not the case for every offering. You know, the smaller the offerings get, or in the case of looking at a platform as a service in Amazon, they can get more price competitive. But still, you know, these shapes show the clear price advantage when, you know, you don't need the largest physical bare metal infrastructure. And, you know, this is an important point to note that, you know, especially in these Kubernetes environments, sizing those nodes to host your containers is very important. It will drastically change the total cost of ownership in your environment. Okay, with that concludes our initial demonstration of the CloudGenera platform and its output, the scorecard, that helps customers visualize whether they want to compare within a provider or across providers what the best solutions would be for their workload.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that great demo and great way to illustrate the values that this tool brings, not just for the sellers, for the partners, but really for the clients, right? So I think right now we're going to talk about what are some of the optimum bare metal use cases, or what to look for, more importantly, what to listen for when you're engaging with your clients and trying to find the right solutions or help them navigate through their technology journey. So things you want to listen for or ask about are, you know, their time to market for automating their IT processes and adopting DevOps procedures, right? If they're looking to minimize their time to market, to deploy or to test in certain infrastructure resources, right? Anytime you hear a client talking about, or if they're inquiring about unpredictable workloads or workloads that they didn't anticipate. So they kind of found themselves in these situations and they need burstability or they need something on a global basis, right? These are perfect scenarios for where instantly you should be thinking, this fits right into what we're talking about today. This becomes a potential good use case for this type of a scenario where you can bring this tool to the client, and it adds value not just to the client, but it adds value to you as a seller, right? Bringing that consultative approach to separate you from anyone else in the marketplace, but most importantly, to help solve for and shed some light on the solutions that are available for the clients to meet and exceed their technology journey needs. Next slide, please. So how do you go about providing proof of value? And Brian just walked through and showed you a great demonstration. And I think part of it is, listening and understanding what those needs are of the clients. And if they need to expand or move quickly in the marketplace, need scalability, right? As I mentioned earlier, burstability. But most importantly is really identifying, I think it was Ian earlier on the call had talked about, budgeting, how most organizations historically are over budgeting for their cloud journey. So that gives you an example that they really don't have a good handle on their optimizing of that cloud. They're over budgeting for it because they don't know what to expect. And then in the end, I think there was another percentage put out there by a third-party source about the cloud waste, right? And so these are great times to be able to illustrate and bring value to your marketplace as a trusted advisor and tap into this resource to help eliminate those things. We want to be able to optimize what they're looking to do by providing the right size solution for not only the need today, but for the need going forward in their technology journey. And picking the right vendors to do it, right? And we're confident here at phoenixNAP through this program with CloudGenera that we're going to illustrate those values for you guys and help you guys go to market faster, identify better needs, and ultimately win more. And that's what this is really all about. Can you go to the next slide, please? So again, the promo I think we're talking about here today, and Brian, I think you're going to go into it a little further in a minute, but it's this really valuable optimization, this exercise we can take your clients through and really get an inside view of where they are today, where they're looking to go, what resources are needed to get them there, and the value that we're working on. And by the way, big thanks to both Intel and CloudGenera for being able to put this program together with phoenixNAP to help put you folks in the right position to provide the right scenario for your clients and tap into this really valuable resource to be able to bring this analysis back to your clients and really put the information that's needed in making educated decisions as they move forward in their journey. This is something that is challenging for all buyers right now, and even for a lot of the sellers. They're not sure of how to, tap into that. Well, this is a perfect tool to do it. So please, if you have clients, whether they're your clients today or they're someone you're trying to earn the business of as a trusted advisor, reach out to your local channel team here at phoenixNAP and let's get us engaged. If you're unfamiliar with who your local channel personnel is, then please just go ahead and reach out to us at partners@phoenixNAP.com and we will get back to you as soon as possible. The idea here is to put you folks in a position to meet the demands and expectations of the marketplace and be able to give you the trusted advisory position and the consultative position of really positioning the right solution for the right applications at the time of the customer's needs. Next slide, please. So regardless of where you fit, whether you're a large VAR, a managed solutions provider, or any form of seller in the marketplace. I mean, ultimately what we're looking to do here is work together with you to help build and identify where these opportunities lie. Some might be right there within your existing clientele base. Many others may be in the marketplace that you're looking to expand and grow into. And ultimately what we're trying to do is help identify those needs, provide the valuable resources and tools for you to address those needs. We're all here to obviously be successful and expand. And as sellers, we're here to make money, but ultimately we also want to, and we're responsible to deliver the right tool, the right product or solution to fit or meet that client's need. So this takes a lot of the guessing out. It really puts you in a good position to work with your clients or work with your target audience that you're trying to win the business with. And if we can do this effectively together, it helps scale your business. It helps build that trusted relationship to your marketplace and puts you in that trusted advisory position. And again, what's in it for the client is they get the knowledge of understanding where's their cloud budgeting need to be, where's their optimization of the cloud, so we can reduce the waste. I think Ian talked about that earlier, right? Reduce the waste. And as Ryan mentioned, a shorter time to value, and really helping these folks understand where they are in their journey and accelerate that for them with these tools. And recognize that phoenixNAP is here both pre-sale and post-sale from an engineering and a sales support model. So we're here to fill the gap, the voids of any of the expertise areas that we can add value to your organization to meet these needs. Next, please. I'd like to turn it back over to Brian for him to go ahead and explain and walk you through the best practices for the POV scope.
Thanks, Peter. Team, the POV is intended to help you show your customer an initial value around leveraging the CloudGenera platform to accelerate and simplify their decision-making. Again, use cases that are applicable would be cloud migration planning, cloud cost planning, or spend optimization and modernization work for those clients who are either being thoughtful before they move or who've already moved and need to quickly find a way to lower that bill. The scope of the POV is intended to be 2 or 3 applications. The reason we select 2 or 3 is that we want to have a good enough sampling to show the customer what's possible. But we want to keep the scope refined to something that can be completed in under 2 months, right? From the time they decide to the time we kick off and then ultimately are done, we'd like that to be a 30 to 45 day time frame. And so this scope allows us to keep to that type of schedule. Again, what are they going to get? They're going to get migration planning. They're going to get comparisons. They'll get insights around how to potentially rationalize the portfolio. It will help them with workload placement as well as transformation, getting transparency and insight on costs, whether it's informing the business as they're looking to do a modernization and migration, or it's optimizing the business because they need to find ways to control that spend. This POV is excellent for that sort of activity. What's the client need to invest? Well, we need an executive sponsor. We need someone who will shepherd getting us access to the technical data. And we need someone who we can present these findings to that will see that we've given them something actionable for their app so that ultimately they could look to scale this with you as a partner beyond an initial proof of value. In terms of their time investment, we really only need a few meetings. An initial meeting to kick off and ensure alignment around what good looks like and what the scope of the work is and what the expected outcomes are. A meeting to make sure that we are in good shape around the data collection. And then lastly, a meeting to show the findings. And so the intent is to come in, demonstrate value quickly, and then ultimately get feedback from that customer, right? In addition to their time, the other thing that we would look for in exchange for Intel and CloudGenera's joint investment with phoenixNAP is that, they provide feedback at the end of this project and give clarity on their intent and timing to move forward with an investment. And the benefit to them for investing that time is they will get something that is better than any of the migration planning that they've attempted to do. They'll get something that is actionable so that there's an immediate opportunity for you as a partner to help them with the next step. And they'll get a proof of something that you could deliver to them either as an ongoing service or as a project or a program to help accelerate their decisioning around the scope beyond the initial few apps. And so that's a little bit of background on the POV scope and the expectations and the investment needed, as well as the benefit that the client will get.
Looks like we have another poll here. So if you'd like to please go ahead and answer the questions for the phoenixNAP and CloudGenera experts. A being, yes, I'm very interested in phoenixNAP solutions. B, I'm equally interested in CloudGenera solutions, or not at this moment would be C. If everybody take a moment and quickly tabulate the poll. All right, and if we can show the results. Well, that doesn't look so good, does it? Maybe we had a malfunction there. Let's go ahead on to the next slide. So let's, at this point, let's open it up for Ian and for Brian or myself. Any questions that we may have from the audience? Looks like we have a question here that's coming in. So let me read it out loud so everybody can hear. How frequently we need to assist our clients when analyzing their infrastructure as it fits their growing workload needs. Brian or Ian, do you want to jump in on the answer for that?
I mean, the frequency is really you can set it up structured. It really depends on the company, right? And how often some companies are more structured, and you can do more of a regular cadence with them and actually sit down and they do planning. I would say that tends to be the exception, not the rule, though. Most companies tend to be a little more chaotic when it comes to new projects coming in, new deployment stacks, they may get a very large customer. They need to scramble and get things going. I would say a very having open dialogue is very important, so that if they are in an emergency situation or a situation where time is of the essence, you're on the ready. But if the company tends to be a little bit more structured on the planning side and is thinking ahead, hey, I have plans for the next couple of years. These are some big corporate initiatives. This is the way I want to do. That cadence is really important. And so I would say you give yourself the flexibility to do both. To be able to be on the ready in case, and also have that relationship at strength, and at the same time also have a cadence that is structured and is done. Either depending on the organization. I mean, even every couple quarters, or if they tend to be more aggressive, a quarter. But more than that, there might be diminishing returns. Some companies move to a yearly cadence where they do yearly planning. Being part of that is great. So it really depends on the size of the organization and the velocity of change that they have.
Excellent, thank you. We do have another question here. The question is, how and can you provide us with the ROI estimation for refactoring a client's individual applications? And I think I'm going to turn this over to Brian, but I think you heard earlier in his conversation about the scorecarding, right? So Brian, if you want to jump in on that one.
Sure, happy to, Peter. The short answer is that CloudGenera's algorithms can look for opportunities to refactor applications and simulate those transformations and estimate as a part of those simulations the cost associated based upon the level of effort. And then the scorecarding, the output will tell us whether or not there's a business case to perform that action. So CloudGenera's engine is providing three benefits. One, you can define your policy and strategy for refactoring, right? The types of outcomes you'd be looking for. A lot of folks want to look at, How do they modernize their approach to managing databases? How do they transform their VMs to containers? How do they model and deploy a Kubernetes environment and bare metal infrastructure, and many more types of activities. And so CloudGenera gives you a way to put structure around those outcomes that you want to achieve. And then our engine automates finding the best path for the individual apps. And in practice, that saves our partners approximately 75% of the time when compared to trying to do this in spreadsheets and PowerPointing.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. If there are any other questions out there? And if not, then at this point in time, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on today's call. Especially want to thank Brian Kelly, CEO of CloudGenera, and Ian McClarty, CEO of phoenixNAP, for this call today, as well as thanks again, Brian, for this great opportunity to have this initiative for our partners, to share the valuable tools that will help them as a trusted advisor, something that both CloudGenera and Intel are helping fund with phoenixNAP. So thank you to all who joined. And if you, again, have any questions, please reach out to your channel team members or reach out to us at partners@phoenixNAP.com, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have after this call. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time.